What's up, everybody? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Now, you know, I go around this amazing planet of ours finding the best humans on it to come on here to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. I have somebody who's so much fun. I cannot wait to get into a conversation with her. Her name is Lindsay. I'm going to probably say this wrong. Harle-Kadatz. Did I say that wrong?
Harle-Kadatz, but I do respond to Harle.
Harle-Kadatz.
Yeah.
And she is known as the Values Vixen. You're going to have so much fun with this woman. And she, as a business consultant who specializes in team behavior via culture and brand alignment, and she supports leaders who want to have an immediate and lasting impact on their people. That is so freaking needed right now. So needed. Okay. And so it starts with their values, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. A tasty mental prune juice that brings a leader better brain flow for guiding, connecting, and leading their team to greatness. And you know what, Lindsay? I have been a leader for years, maybe 30, 40 years. And I know that there are definitely good leaders out there and not so good. So I love that you're focusing on leadership. So first of all, let's start from the beginning. Who are you, Lindsay? Who are you?
Well, I'm a wee bit of a quirky human, but beyond that, exactly that. I am a business consultant who focuses on realness and team alignment via brand and culture. More importantly, I am someone who has come from the corporate world, and I had an exception of a leader. And this is one reason why I'm so passionate about leaders, because I had a leader during one of the darkest periods of my life who saw me, who listened to me, who encouraged me and held me accountable for going to get the help I needed in order to choose my life. And she had created a space that made it possible for me to say, okay, I'm more than a butt in a seat here. I am worth going to get some help for. And because of that, I'm still here coming on 12 years later.
Wow.
So leaders have a very special place in my heart because of that exception of a leader within a huge, large, one of the big four accounting firms at a time when mental health wasn't really talked about. So,
You know, that's really powerful, right? Because I think that gets lost a little bit sometimes in corporate is the humanity, the connection, and the fact that they're all human too. I mean, our CEOs, our COOs, they're human too. They're going through some stuff, right? And it is sometimes a dog eat dog world. And so they feel like they have to be a certain character or behave a certain way. And I love that you are focusing on the leaders, right? And focusing on how they can be better for their teams, because, you know, I think and I'm grateful that I learned this a long time ago, is that I realized that I have a servant leader mentality. I love to be there in the trenches with my team. I'm also not threatened by their greatness. You know, that's something I think truly hard for leaders sometimes, because they feel like, oh, this person's going to take my job, or this person thinks they know more than me. Well, they probably do. And that doesn't mean anything. Like some of the people that I worked with, they had great ideas, great things they came with. And I was seriously not threatened by that. And I'm like, you know, a lot of people I saw in maybe different teams who were challenging their people all the time because they were so threatened. And I just saw how fast that like degraded the team, you know? So tell me, what's your approach? What is it that you want to help these leaders with?
Well, so it's not necessarily about how do you get to the next level of leadership? How do you get to that C-suite? I don't work with C-suites. I work with those in between leaders. So they're either new to the role, they're just trying to figure out their way in this, from going from expert to leader now, because they're no longer these experts, technicians, so to speak, or the middle managers on how do I find my place here in a way that's more real and genuine to me, so that I can act. What I'm doing isn't working. So now what? And that really starts by, and backing up a little bit too, is during the pandemic, all these articles were coming out, all these stats were coming out about how we needed to support our employees because their mental health was not good, they were burnt out, so on and so forth. But there was very little about, well, what do we do? What do our leaders do? Our leaders are not mental health professionals for
Right.
the most part.
Right.
They don't necessarily even have a mental health first aid training. So all of a sudden, they're expected to provide this mental health support for their employees whose mental health is not great. That's not okay.
Right.
That is hard. So how I work with leaders is really about that. What is that self-awareness piece? Do we know what our own values are? And part of the reason why I'm called a Values Vixen is because everything for me is that foundation of our values, which are our underlying beliefs upon which we take action. They're not
Right.
these fluffy statements. They are these
Right.
things that we really need to pause and consider and think, what are my values? And that was a huge lesson for me, because the values I was operating with back when I was in that dark period of my life were not bad values. They were just not my values. They were values that
Mm.
had been modeled for me and that I thought were the right values,
Right.
but
Right.
they weren't
Right.
mine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about starting that foundation of what is important to us, what is influencing us the most, what motivates us, what lights us up. How do we start to take action with confidence? And
Mm-hmm.
in that, and I love that you speak about, being threatened. I mean, I don't love that, but I love that you're speaking
No,
about
no,
the idea
yeah.
of feeling threatened,
Mm-hmm.
because that then limits the ability to listen.
Right. Right.
And what leaders do, they spend roughly 55% or more of their day listening. And so if we're not listening properly, if we're not understanding why, when we're listening, our ego might be coming into play, we're not going to be able to get the best out of our people. We're not going to be
Mm-hmm.
able to get the best out of ourselves because we're in this constant fear mode. And so
Right.
it's working with the leaders to understand, to help, not to understand, but to help them go inward and understand, what are my values? What is my mindset? What are the beliefs guiding my actions? Are they hindering me? Are they moving me forward? And beyond that, what are my emotions telling me? Because, and I love this quote. It's not mine. It's from the brilliant Dr. Susan David, where she says, emotions are data, not directives. So as
Mm, I like
leaders, we
that.
need to understand the data of the emotion,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
not the directive of it. And so I work with leaders to give them those tools of, how do we make sure that our emotions aren't being directive, but being data,
Mm-hmm.
for us to go inward and understand, but to not hinder our ability to listen and coach essentially our team to their own greatness.
Right. And I think that, for those of you who are listening to Lindsay, and especially those of you who are CEOs or, are C-suites in companies, you really should consider, having someone like Lindsay come on, because a lot of our leaders, a lot of our middle management leaders or whatever, are usually, they go from that expert piece, like you said, into management, but never get the training.
Yeah.
So they go still with the mindset of the expert and not the mindset of a manager, where they have to like serve, listen, be there with them instead of competing maybe for sales or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the piece I've always found that's missing. Some
Mm-hmm.
people get promoted because it's their turn. It's not because they have the skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And that can damage a company. That will take a company down, right? So it's like when you were going through your mental health piece, if your manager or your leader wasn't there for you, that could have been completely, that could have went a whole different way,
Whole different
right?
way. Yeah.
Whole
Yeah.
different way for
In
you
many
and for the
ways.
company.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. Do you agree with that? That, that piece is missing?
Heck yes. Heck yes. I mean, I've been in
Yeah.
companies where it's been missing. And
Right.
and even further, it's so interesting because not everybody wants to be a leader. And I was
Right.
talking with with a dear colleague of mine, and she works in a very large telecommunications company here in Canada. And she knows that the next level up for her is when hours really start to increase. Her time is no longer hers.
Right.
And at that point, she then can no longer be there for her child. That was a hard word to say. Her child. Her evenings will extend well past the 8 o'clock mark. And so she said to me, she's like, Lindsay, I know that I am at the highest level that I want right now. And that's all. And I'm okay with that. And that's all I'm ever going to want, because I don't want my time to be the company's. I want my time to be there for family, because
going back to what you said about values. That's her value.
Her family is her number one core value, because we've also worked together in that capacity where I helped her gain some clarity in that. And so being able to recognize, hey, if I were to move up into this leadership role, I would be miserable. I would hate it. It would be so misaligned with who I am. And so I'm fine to move horizontally, laterally across the company, but I no longer want to work my way vertically up. And that's okay.
That makes so much sense. Yeah.
So,
and I wish some people knew how to express that. I wish people knew how to express that, because I think most of us feel that the next natural step is to elevate, is to go up. When I love what you said. No, maybe sometimes your next natural state is to stay. It's just to be right in that level that you are okay with, that you are fine living in. And that's, one of the things I used to have to talk to a lot of the women that I coach about was that, like I had a CEO once, she had a really great company she was running. And she's like, I don't want to go back. I want to stay. I want to stay home with my kid. I said, well, what does that look like? She goes, what does that look like? Like, it never even dawned on her, like that was an option. Right. And so I love that you're stepping in and you're saying, listen, we're going to take care of your middle management, which are honestly, to me, what's holding up your company. Right. Because they are connecting with the C-suites, but they are also leading the workhorses, the team, the people who are doing the thing. Right. So they are super, to me, important, super important. So I'm glad that you're doing that. So how do you do that? Like, are you connecting with big companies? Are you connecting with individual leaders? Like, how are you managing your aspect of the coaching that you do?
So both. But honestly, so I do work individually, one-on-one with clients, walking them through a series of tools and programs based on what they're. Oh no, every time I say.
Okay, I found this on the web for a series of programs.
I knew that was going to happen. My Siri decided to pop up. I apologize. That's
so funny.
Oh, I should have turned her off. But yes, one-on-one, there are typically in a company where they're a leader, obviously, of a team of no less than 5. I also work with leaders who are in larger organizations who have multiple leaders within them, and I can do group leader coaching where they need a little bit more consistency of that level of leader. In how are they giving performance management reviews? How are they teaching them at that next level? How are they? And I think that's such an important piece too,
it is
performance management. I remember having to fill my own out when I was at this big corporate company.
I hate it.
And they said to me, just look at so-and-so's and you'll get an idea of what you should do. Well, I looked at it and I was like, well, that sounds good. So I basically copied it. Wasn't aligned with me at all though. And so, but it was all about moving up and getting these things. And so I think that's a whole other conversation. Obviously I did a squirrel moment though. We're coming back. When I work with leaders who are in larger companies and they have teams, there is often a team aspect. So we're giving this leader great tools to start to understand how to communicate with herself. But communicate with themselves, understand what's going on internally. The thing is, there also needs to be practice. And the team also then needs to have a very common language as to what is it that they're all saying, why, how are they all connecting, how are they all interacting, and why is this leader leading us this way now? So it's about sitting down and having conversations with the team to understand things like their mindset, their values. What does it mean for them to listen? And we don't necessarily need to go into the deeper science and the neuroplasticity as we do with the leader, unless that's what they want. But it's about giving them that understanding of here's how we listen. Here's questions. Here's what's going on. Here's, our purported values as an organization and what it means as a team. And we get to all define that on this team because we need to operate together. And so it's a combination of the one-on-one of the one-on-one engagement into these larger engagements of workshops, larger group training, depending on where the company it's at, depending on, let's be honest, budget and desire and motivation. So it's different levels.
That's good though, because I think that, companies and people who are running companies and stuff, though, all of you who are listening, because I know I get a lot of, like CEOs, entrepreneurs, like C-suite people, management leaders that listen to the show, which is phenomenal. I love that. And I love giving them these type of tools because I had a woman a long time ago who came on and was talking about emotional intelligence with leadership, right? And I know that she had spoken to someone else who was listening to the show, so I don't know if they worked together. I never followed up, but I know that, those of you who are listening understand that what Lindsay's saying is actually like really taking care of your internal teams so that you can thrive. That's the whole point. So that you can thrive. I mean, we're obviously in business to thrive, right? So we should invest in our people. Honestly, that's one of the things I've always tried to fight for in every different company that I've worked in. Like, hey, I got a great person to connect with you. You should definitely be calling these people to come in and be with us, with the team, Some of them took that on, some of them didn't, unfortunately. But the ones who didn't have miserable people working for them, and I'm going to be completely honest, right? Because I still friends with some of the people that work there, and I feel bad for that because it's like, you know what? You guys have budgets for your Christmas party. I think you can try to get a budget to support the emotional, mental, and giving your people skill sets that'll last them even outside of work. This will be outside of work too, right?
I mean, absolutely. And I mean, just even from that like statistic standpoint, is if we're investing in our leaders for these people skills, there's one study that was done by the Energy Project and Harvard Business Review, and they were saying things like employees who have leaders who are more emotionally intelligent, who treat them with respect, they're 63% more satisfied with their job, 55% more likely to be engaged, 58% more focused. And those are great numbers. But I think the one that really made me go, whoa, was that they are 110% more likely to stay with the organization.
Wow.
Because a leader is treating them with respect.
Yep.
That just translates to the bottom dollar. That just translates to a better culture all in all. That translates to longevity and loyalty and deeper connections.
Connection.
And I mean, I'm very much of the belief that if a company doesn't value its people, okay, that's not wrong. It's not my company. They very clearly have different values and they need to stand in that and they need to own it. And then that is the culture that will attract people to that culture. Who are right for that culture.
Right.
Though, I mean, not great from my own personal opinion and my own personal values, but we can't judge that as wrong.
Right.
So long as the company owns it and doesn't paint itself all shiny and fuzzy and we love people as outwardly and then inwardly there's something else. But when we say these are our values and we value our people and we are all about service goes two ways, to your customers and to your employees, because that's an experience, and that can be a costly experience if they are turning over and over and over, if they're burnt out, if they're on stress leave, if they're doing toxic behaviors, that even if that individual, you remove that individual who's doing the toxic behavior, that toxic behavior is still ingrained in the culture and the belief system because it was allowed to become ingrained. So this is why it's important we invest in our leaders to.
And even as you say it though, Lindsay, I'm thinking, I bet you everybody's going, yep. Right? Because it's happening way more than we would like to admit, right? So now, like I said, I know a lot of amazing people are listening to the show. So if people want to bring you on to help their teams, right? Because I think what you're doing is such important work. Like, I'm not just saying that, I really mean that. I think that if we got you in to work with these leaders, man, it would be so much better, because then these companies can thrive. And if the companies are thriving, the economy thrives. If the economy thrives, people have jobs, their families thrive. Like, this is all like a domino effect, right? So how do people get in contact with you if they want to work with you and bring you on, or at least have a conversation with you to see what this looks like, right? So how do they contact you?
So you can find me on my website, which is brpconsulting.ca, because businesses are people. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, which is my playground, under my name, Lindsay Harle-Kadatz.
Harle.
Harle.
People, don't make it Hurl or Harley or whatever I said. It's
you know what? I will say though, my nickname from a lot of friends is Harley, so I will still always respond.
Okay, good. Lindsay, you're amazing. Thank you for coming on here and, like, showing us, your expertise, and also your heart, though, because it looks like, I mean, from what I feel, it just feels like you really do care about this, and you really do care about the people that you're working with. And so I just want companies to understand that it's time to get on the ball with this stuff and stop trying to think it's like from back in the day. We are in a new era. This is a completely different thing. After COVID, things have changed. People's mindsets have changed. Mental health has become a concerning thing. We have to get on the ball with this. You can't just keep ignoring it and thinking, oh, people are good, they'll get through it. That's not right. Train them up in the way that they should lead your teams, and you're going to have a successful business. So, Lindsay, thank you for being here. Go ahead, say it. So what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, at some point, this work is going to become mandated in your people. How you treat your people is going to become law at some point. That might be a huge expression, but at some point. So why would you not want to get ahead of the ball?
Or just do it out of humanity.
Well,
just
I mean, there's that too, but there's the human aspect.
There's the human. Lindsay, you're so awesome. Thank you for being on Straight Talk, and thank you for being here and pouring into my audience. They're a great audience, and I appreciate your time. I really do. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I told you I find the best humans on the planet. Lindsay is definitely one of them. I love this woman. So make sure that you guys connect with her. I'm going to link all of her information below for you. Don't sleep on this kind of stuff. I'm telling you, as a person who was leading a really big team, it is important that you pour into your leaders, and they will pour into their people. And before you know it, you're going to have a place where people stay. And when you have turnaround, that's money going out the door for training and everything all the time. So make it happen. Be a person that really loves people and loves to pour into people, because really we're in the people business more than we're into anything else. So this is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Get your stuff together. Until next time.